This happened in July of 2025, during a camping trip with a group of my friends at Bear Brook State Park in New Hampshire. There were 7 of us in total. Me and my friends Joe, Danny, Mitch, Nate, and Mac, all between 18 and 20 years old. And Mac's dad, Ben, who was in his mid-50s. It was the last night of our trip, around 12:15 in the morning. Most of us were getting ready to go to bed. I was already half asleep in my tent. Everything felt calm, quiet, normal. Mac and his dad were still sitting near the fire at the campsite. They were waiting for the others to come back from the bathroom so everyone could go together to throw out our trash bag. The bathroom was right across the road from our campsite, close enough that you could see it from the tents. It only took about 30 to 45 seconds to walk there, so nobody thought much of it. At that point, Joe, Danny, Mitch, and Nate were inside the bathroom, brushing their teeth, getting ready for bed, just messing around a little, nothing unusual. Apparently, Nate unplugged Danny's phone as a joke, and Danny started mock yelling at him. Nothing serious, just some light arguing, some name calling. The kind of thing friends do, but loud enough to echo a bit in a quiet campground at night. Then, out of nowhere, a man walked into the bathroom. My friend said he looked to be somewhere in his late 30s or maybe early 40s. Not old, but not young either. Just off. Mitch happened to be standing slightly in his way, so when he noticed, he moved aside and said, "Oops, sorry." The man didn't respond, not even a glance. He just walked straight past him, completely silent. He went to the urinal, stood there, flushed, washed his hands, and left, without saying a single word. My friends didn't think much of it at first, but something about him stuck with them. They said his eyes looked empty, like he wasn't really there, like he had that distant, unfocused look, a kind of 1,000-yard stare. It made them uncomfortable, but they brushed it off. It was late. People act weird sometimes, that's what they told themselves. Then, a few seconds after he left, they heard something. The bathrooms had these small windows near the top of the walls, too high to see out of, but open just enough to hear anything outside. And from those windows, they heard footsteps, slow, crunching on gravel, back and forth, pacing right outside the building, not walking away, not leaving, just moving back and forth, over and over again. My friends went completely quiet. Nobody spoke. They just listened, because it didn't make sense. If someone was leaving, they would have just walked down the road. There was no reason to stay right next to the building like that. And then, the door opened again. It was the same man. He walked back in, went straight to the same urinal, stood there. But this time, he didn't actually use it. He just stood there, facing the wall, not moving, not speaking, just there. The silence inside that bathroom changed. It wasn't normal anymore. It felt heavy, like something was about to happen, like he was waiting for something or someone. My friend said nobody even finished what they were doing. They just stood there for a second. Then one of them quietly said, "Let's go." And that was it. No arguments, no hesitation. They all walked out together, trying not to make eye contact with him, trying not to show that they were scared. But they were. All of them. As they stepped outside, the air felt colder than it should have. The campground that had felt normal just minutes ago suddenly felt empty. Too empty. They started walking back toward the campsite, and after only a few steps, they heard it again. Footsteps behind them. Not loud. but steady, keeping pace, matching them, and even then, none of them turned around. Because they already knew. They didn't need to look, they just kept walking. Faster now, trying to act like nothing was wrong, trying not to break into a run. By the time they reached the campsite, the tension had already built up. They immediately started explaining everything to Mac and Ben, talking over each other, trying to get the story out. That's when they turned around and shined their flashlights back toward the road. That's when Nate said it. "Look, he's right there." And when the beams of light cut through the darkness, they saw him, standing behind a tree, half his body hidden, the other half exposed in the light, completely still, watching them, not surprised, not confused, just there. Like he had planned to be there, like he had been waiting. When the light hit him, he shifted slightly, like he was deciding what to do. At first, it looked like he might walk away, pretend none of it meant anything. But then he stopped and spoke. "Put the light down, little boy, and go to bed." His voice was calm, too calm, like he wasn't bothered at all, like this was normal for him. That's when Ben stepped forward and said, "Stop following my boys." There was no fear in his voice, just anger. The man responded quickly. "I was just going for a walk. Heard them hooting and hollering in the bathroom this late at night." It didn't sound convincing, it sounded rehearsed, like something he had ready. Ben didn't believe him. You could hear it. "Yeah, right." There was a pause, long enough to feel uncomfortable, long enough to make it clear neither side believed the other. Then the man turned and walked away, straight into the darkness. No flashlight, no hesitation, no sound of where he went. Just gone. And that was the part that didn't sit right. Because out there, at that hour, with no light, you don't just disappear like that unless you know the area, or you've done it before. The whole time I was still in my tent. But even after the voices stopped, even after the tension outside faded, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had moved behind us, not on the road, but through that open field, that empty stretch that led nowhere but a pond. I could feel it, like something had passed through there, quietly, carefully, like it didn't want to be seen. And what made it worse was that nobody else noticed it, which meant if it really happened, he might have gotten closer than anyone realized. After that, we called the ranger. No answer. Then we called the police. It took a while. Every minute waiting felt longer, like he could come back at any moment, like he might still be nearby, watching. When the officer finally arrived, we told him everything. He listened, but didn't seem shocked. He said things like this happen more often than people think. That sometimes people come through campsites looking for supplies, food, gear, anything they can take. He didn't say that's what this was, but it didn't make anyone feel better. They searched the area, nothing, no footprints, no movement, no sign of anyone, and that almost made it worse, because it felt like he had just vanished. We didn't stay, we packed up immediately, left that same night. Nobody argued, nobody wanted to stay. Even Ben agreed. The next day we called the campground, gave them a full description. They told us there was no one registered there matching him, no one. And that's the part that stuck with me the most, because that means he wasn't supposed to be there. To this day, we still talk about it, trying to figure it out. Why he followed them, why he came back into the bathroom, why he stood behind that tree instead of leaving, and what he would have done. If nobody noticed him, if nobody turned around, if nobody shined that light. Because something about the way he stood there, half hidden, watching, it didn't feel like he was just passing through. It felt like he was waiting. And if he was willing to follow them once, there's no telling how far he would have gone if no one had stopped him.